Ever since I came here, it's just felt like home. There hasn't been a day where I genuinely missed Canada, where I wanted to go back.
This is Danilo. Born in Canada to Serbian parents, he moved with his family to Serbia 3 years ago. Here he began studying at the Faculty of Economics at the University of Belgrade. He shared one main reason he chose Serbia over Canada, the big lesson he learned about Serbia while working as a bartender in a Kafana, and whether the Serbian dream really exists. Enjoy!
You have quite a unique story. While a lot of young Serbs moving out of Serbia to find a new career, you moved back to Serbia.
It was pretty easy for me to actually adapt to Serbian culture, Serbian mentality, all of that. But I'd also say the biggest improvement I had was the social aspect of life over here. In Canada, people just aren't social generally. You could be in the classroom with someone, share a classroom with them for years on end, and you don't have to speak to them ever. And that's so weird to me because in Serbia, for example, on my first day of school, I shook hands with 30 people, everyone in my class. So that was a huge shock to me. The reason I came over here, specifically me, not just my family, but me. Even as a child, I still have to kind of worry about the economy because the housing prices over there are crazy. It doesn't matter what city you're in, not only housing prices, but food and all of that. I also didn't agree with the Trudeau government and many of the principles that he had regarding things like immigration, LGBT, and other things, for example.
You mentioned that prices in Canada are now very high and it's tough to live there. But here in Serbia, prices are starting to be higher too.
But I still think that it's more manageable in Serbia. A lot of the things still are cheaper over here. In Canada, for example, salaries, I would say, in Canada are much more stagnant than they are in Serbia. I noticed that in Serbia, they've risen more than over there. But the prices of food and other things, they've exploded in Canada compared to over here. I recognize that Serbia does have its economic struggles, but I think they're still doing better than Canadians. For example, food in Canada is extremely high, extremely expensive all the time.
Yeah.
And especially because it's more of a colder country, so we have to import a lot from America, Mexico, etc. What else? Housing, especially. My family, for example, in 2007, they bought the house that I lived in for $190,000.
Oh, they are lucky.
It was a pretty good price at the time.
Yeah.
But back before COVID, maybe 2018, 2019, it was valued at $400,000.
Yeah.
And then when we sold it in 2022, we sold it for $750,000. So it's a huge jump in price in such a short span of time. And had we sold the house maybe 6 months earlier, in the winter, we would have gotten maybe $800,000.
Wow, almost a million.
Yeah, and it was a really average townhouse. Nothing special. The location was nice, but it wasn't near the city center or anything. It was just a normal townhouse conjoined between other houses.
Yeah.
So you didn't even have that much privacy. You could hear what your neighbors are doing.
So as a young man, you are thinking about your future and you are thinking, can I afford?
Obviously, it's difficult because you see apartments in Toronto, for example. The most basic apartment is like between $2,000 and $3,000 a month, and that's really hard to pay.
You've wrote to me in your email that you think that Canadians are cold, emotionally cold.
They don't like to speak at all. Aside from being Canada, that Canada's cold, but they're generally socially cold people. They try to make distance. For example, if you see someone on the sidewalk in Serbia, it wouldn't be a problem for them to go past you or to say something nice to you. But in Canada, if you see someone on the sidewalk and you're walking towards each other, you're going to try making as big of a distance as possible because they're just not really friendly people in that sense. I was obviously used to it in Canada because that's what I grew up with. And when I came with Serbian, I just saw how different it was. It was a huge shock to me. Serbs love to do everything together. In my first few days of school, I had a friend ask me, do you want to go to the bathroom? And that was so weird for me to hear because I'm thinking, why is another man asking me to go to the bathroom with him?
Yeah.
Is he gay or something? And then I just realized everyone does that. You know, in Canada, it's usually girls that go together just to gossip or do whatever. I never had a guy ask me to go to the bathroom with him. But then I realized that's just how they do it. You know, they go to the store together as well.
Do you have problems with socializing here in student circles?
Almost never. Sometimes the language will be a problem. Sometimes people making some jokes that I don't understand, that you need to be here, like you need to live here to know. Many of the songs that they listen to, I don't listen to. So I don't know them, so I just kind of have to sit there like bored a bit, waiting for the song to end so another one can play that I know.
Well,
but that's pretty much
what kind
it.
of songs do you
A
listen?
lot of the older music I don't listen to. Yeah, Narodnjaka, that stuff from like the 60s, 70s, 80s that they listen to. I don't listen to it. I listen mainly to the newer music, like the rap, the hip hop, the pop.
Yeah.
I like that stuff. But the older music, it all kind of sounds the same to me, you know? Oh, I'm depressed. I drink because of her, I drink because of him, and it's just all the songs go like that pretty much.
Wait, do rappers making a kind of different lyrics?
I mean, obviously being rap, there's a lot more vulgar things being said, but at the same time, you can hear the difference in the melodies, the beats, all of that. So it's like a nice change just to me, it's all the same. The Narodnjaka, like the older songs, it all sounds the same.
Regarding language, do you learn Serbian language? Do you speak Serbian language? Ajde da pređemo na srpski
Ajde,
jezik.
može. Mislim, pričam srpski, relativno ok, s obzirom što nisam ikad išao na privatan čas, bilo koji, u ovih 3 godine kad sam bio ovde, kad sam došao ovde, ja sam zadovoljan, mislim da mi ok ide sad. Mislim, ponekad me nešto zbunjuje, padeže mi dalje nisu nešto najjasnije, ali mislim da ću preći preko toga vremenom.
A ti si pričao srpski jezik u Kanadi sa roditeljima?
Jesam, ali jedva, jer otac je bio kamiondžija u Kanadi, on je bio na putu 6 dana nedeljno. On je najviše bio zato da ja pričam srpski kod kuće, ali majka nije nju nije to toliko zanimalo, pa ona je rekla samo priča šta god hoćeš kod kuće. Pa smo ja i sestra najviše kod kuće pričali engleski i kad sam onda tek ovdje došao, bilo mi je mnogo teško da razumijem dosta stvari. Naprimjer, kad sam imao odgovaranja iz prava i iz psihologije u 2. godini, ja sam čak i odgovarao na engleskom da bih dobio ocenu. I zato mislim da će i meni posebno biti malo teže ovdje na fakultetu, pošto nešto što mi treba, na primjer, 5 minuta da zapamtim na engleskom kad čitam, će mi trebati možda 15-20 minuta na srpskom. Tako da bit će mnogo više čitanja i učenja u tom smislu.
Kao studenti na tvom fakultetu smatraju na tebe kao na Srbina ili kao na Kanadžina?
Kad sam došao ovde, prvo su rekli kao, a ti si Kanadžanin, ali sad kako sam se prilagodio ovde, ljudi me više smatraju kao Srbin koji se rodio u Kanadi. Mislim, sad pričam jezik dovoljno ok, slušam našu muziku koliko mogu i tako udružujem se sa Srbima. Ne tražim ja sad sa strancima da budem uvek u društvu, nego da što veći Srbin budem ovde.
Da li oni iznenađeni zato što ti sam ovde, a nije u Kanadi?
Mislim, jesu dosta bili iznenađeni na početku. Nisu mnogo pitali koliko sam ja mislio da će pitati. Prvih nedelju dana su svi došli i pitali kako mi je ovde, je mi lepo, kako mi se sviđa. Dosta su stvari pitali za Kanadu, ali opet nije toliko bilo. Nisu baš me napali tu.
Regarding the weather, do you like weather in Serbia? Because Canada is pretty cold country.
Oh yeah, I love it in Serbia. It's warm almost all the time. Like right now in Canada, people are probably wearing winter jackets. I've never been that bothered by the cold, but it's just not something I preferred. But at the same time, I've also gotten used to the cold. So back over here, people are wearing winter jackets and I'm out in a hoodie. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like the snow's falling and I can be out in shorts and it's not an issue for me.
What do you think about summer heat? Because sometimes it's quite brutal here.
I honestly still love it.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Because I've got the impression that in the August, everybody moves out of Serbia.
A lot of them go to the mountains too, like, Kopaonik, Zlatibor, where it's cooler there generally.
Yeah.
But I love the heat. I have when it's 35 degrees, I'm going out asking people if they want to go out for a coffee or something. They're like, no, it's too hot. I love it, if I'm being honest.
Do you think about Serbs as ambitious people or not?
It really depends on the person. Some of them are really ambitious. They have high hopes for both themselves, for their country, etc. But then some people, they just hate Serbia. I like to call them anti-nationalists. They're against their own country. But when I came to Serbia, and generally whenever I tell people that I live here now, half the people say, oh, congratulations, good for you. And the other half of people say, oh, you're an idiot for coming here, you shouldn't have come here. And it's weird that some people, they hate this country so much, or they at least act like they do, but they're not doing much to actually improve it. They'd rather escape. I know it sounds ironic coming from me leaving Canada for that, but I've never really felt that much love for Canada, even while living there, as a child, as a teen, and all of that. And I honestly feel like Serbia is the place for me. Everyone has a place in the world. That's for them. Serbia's the place for me, and I plan on staying here forever.
You've chosen to be an economist.
Yeah.
Why?
I think I've just always had a passion for it. It's always something I liked. I've never been that interested in mathematics, engineering, law, medicine. Back even in high school over there, I took business courses, all of that. It was just something that really, that I felt really interested in, and I just decided to pursue that later on.
Do you want to start business or do you want to do economy as a science?
I'd rather start a business, but not immediately after university. I'd rather get a job somewhere, see how things work out, and then after I gain the knowledge and experience and some capital, I'd start my own thing. And it really depends what I can't really make that decision now, because who knows what's going to happen in Serbia after 6-7 years. You can't predict. It could be going amazing for us. It could also go horrible. So you never know. I'll just have to see what there's going to be in Serbia. Some new brains might open stores over here that would render other ideas of mine useless. So I'd really have to see how far we develop or how little to then decide what I should open.
But from my perspective, and from perspective of many people, Western countries are the places with a great opportunity. So you have this crazy inflation in Canada, you have this crazy inflation in US and in the UK, but at the same time, you have a crazy amount of opportunities there.
Well, I think that Serbia actually has more opportunities than people think, since it's a developing country. It's not like the best in the world right now, but I haven't heard many good news for Canada economically in years. I've always been hearing about how interest rates are bad, like the housing prices of everything generally, they're bad. But in Serbia, I see like new projects, everything's developing, it's going quickly. So as soon as I'm able to, as soon as I find a chance to do that, I'm gonna start investing into something, see what I can do, because it's not gonna last forever, this development. It could either stagnate or it could explode, and then I might not have the opportunity again.
What do you do for a living here?
I work as a waiter and a bartender in my parents' Kafana that they own in Shabac.
What lessons have you learned from working in the Kafana?
I've seen all kinds of people. I've noticed that the Kafana doesn't discriminate. Financially, for example, you're going to see millionaires drinking there, and you're going to see people that are giving their last 20 euros. Many societal norms are just forgotten when you go to the Kafana. You just go there to have fun, and that's it. So you hear all kinds of stories, see what people have gone through. You get great advice all the time, and I'd say it's really good for character building as well.
Do Canada have such places?
No.
Because I know in England it's pubs.
In Canada, you have, basically where I lived at least, you have almost nothing. No cafes almost anywhere. Everyone could either hang out at people's houses, at school, or at the park. And even now, when my friends have driver's licenses, they have cars, they're legally able to drink now, they still hang out at people's houses, and that's it. There's just not much to do socially, nowhere to go really.
Yeah.
Sometimes the mall, but even then, it's still kind of far away from where you live, or where I lived at least.
How would you compare education system in Canada versus education system in Serbia?
I feel that over here, the professors and the teachers, they have more of a passion for what they do. They do a lot more explaining, whilst in Canada, more of what they do is they just give you like a packet of paper, you read from there, you learn from there, you do your work there, and then you just send it to them, and that's it.
Do you personally like studying more in Canada or in Serbia?
I'd say it's less stressful over here for high school, because in Canada, you had to do assignments, you had to study for tests, for exams, whatever, you had to do homework. Over here, it's mostly you just go to class, you sit down, you listen to the teacher, take notes, and then before a test you study, and that's it.
What is your favorite part in Belgrade?
Honestly, right now where I live, Vračar, I think that's the best place to be. Nothing's too far, it's a quiet street, so I think that's probably the best place to be.
Don't you find that there is a lot of Russians there?
I haven't even met that many Russians, but I've seen that they've opened their businesses there. I have a Russian cafe like a 2-minute walk away from me. I'm planning on going one day, but it's not that much of an issue. What I would like the most is that most of them try to assimilate, to learn the language the most. That's probably the most important part of keeping a society, intact.
Yeah, I agree with you, but not so many of them trying to learn language and
That's
socialize.
an issue. It's the same thing in Canada. You have an influx of Indians coming in, especially them. And a lot of them, they find jobs, but they don't know the language still. So you go to order a coffee, and they're looking at you funny. Like you have no clue what they're saying, and they don't know what you're saying.
What do you think about national minorities here in Serbia versus Canada? Because Canada is a very diverse country.
I honestly think it's better to live in a more homogenous society. It's nicer to have all Serbs around you, but a few immigrants is okay. It could be beneficial. And what I do notice is that the immigrants over here, they're more respectful of the country because they have to be. For example, in Canada, if you see someone harassing another person, most people in Canada are really passive. They'd rather just look the other way, not do anything. But in Serbia, it's much more likely that someone will step in.
Have you ever experienced any prejudices being Serb in Canada?
Not at all, in fact. I think a part of that stems from people not knowing much about Serbia or Serbs. A lot of the older people, they might know about Milosevic and that stuff, but even they don't really discriminate Serbs because of it. Even when considering people that other Serbs would find to be unfriendly, for example, Albanians, Serbians, Bosnians, I would be friends with them too. We're all friends over there. We don't let the politics or the history get to us, because we know at the end of the day, nothing can change. So at the end of the day, we can all just sit down at the same table, we can crack jokes, we can have fun, talk, listen to the same music.
How it feels to grow up as a Serb in Canada?
Strictly Serbian perspective, it was really nice. It was as if I was living in a mini Serbia, because ever since I was born, I was in a community of Serbs. We would do everything together. For example, I played in a Serbian football club, or like soccer. For a few years, it was called the Hamilton Serbs, and it's been established since 1958. Also dance folklore, which is our national dance.
You were dancing kola.
Over there, kola. And it was always Serbs there. I also had something that we call Serbian school. I'd go every Friday at a church, and they have a community center at the church too. We would go down and we would learn about the Cyrillic script. We would learn about Orthodoxy, Serbian history, etc. And then we'd have a little break. The kids would all go play with each other. After that, we'd go to church for a while, where the priest, he would talk with us, tell us stories, all of that. And then after that, we'd go back to class, learn a bit more, and we go home.
Did you like it? Because actually having Serbian school after ordinary school, it's like double school for a kid.
I wouldn't really consider it to be an actual school, but it was a nice recreational thing to do. You go out, you just learn a bit more about yourself, your culture, your history, and that's it.
How is Serbian community in Canada?
I think they're much more patriotic than the Serbs over here, because a lot of the people that moved to Canada from the Balkans, they were also refugees. So a lot of people came from Croatia during the war over there, from Bosnia. A lot of the older generations, they were more associated with the Patriotic movement, so they moved to Canada to escape communist persecution. I think a lot of that nationalism stayed, as well as I think a lot of the older names for people have also stayed in Canada as well. I haven't met many young people named Sava or Božidar, например, but there's a lot of them in Canada. They're more with their culture. In Serbia, I've seen a lot of the people, they kind of look at you weirdly if you tell them that you train folklore. But over there, it's more expected for you to actually do that and to be involved in the community.
Do many of them want to come back to Serbia?
A lot of them are interested, not just people my age, but their families as well. They're planning on coming back as soon as, they finish their education in Canada, for example, and then they plan on staying here because everyone knows that it's not doing good over there. It's not going good at all.
Why do they consider Serbia instead of US, instead of Europe?
What I've noticed is that the further you are from Serbia, the more you love your country. People in Austria, they also love Serbia, but they still stay in Austria. But the further you go from there, the more they want to come back over here. I know a few French people that have come back here, Canadians and Americans, they really want to come back here, a lot of them.
Do you miss something from Canada in Serbia?
What I mostly miss is the food.
Food?
Not really Canadian food, but the variety of food that exists over there. For example, over here, we don't have Five Guys. The best burgers I've had in my life, Five Guys, they're over there. The flaming hot Cheetos. They're Cheetos like little chips pretty much they can get. They're amazing and they don't have them in Europe generally because of the chemical laws that they have in Europe.
Šta voliš iz srpske hrane najbolje?
Mislim, ja sve volim. Ja obožavam sve da jedem. Ja sam čak i u Kanadi jeo, majka mi je uvek kuvala srpska jela, pa sam tu jeo. Ona ima po meni najbolju sarmu na svijetu, ona pravi. To sam jeo, punjene paprike, uvek roštilj, pljeskavice, čevapi, obožavam sve.
Šta ne voliš u Srbiji?
Organizacije generalno za ove državne institucije i takve stvari. Ne sviđa mi se negativnost dosta ljudi ovdje. Pa to je to. Generalno ja obožavam Srbiju, nemam mnogo loše da kažem o njoj i to je to.
Sada 3 najbolje stvari u Srbiji za tebe.
Ljudi, narod, to prvo, hrana. I mnogo mi se isto sviđa kako su blizu generalno svega u Evropi. U Kanadi to je malo veći luksuz ići do Evrope, na odmor. Ljudi najviše idu na Karibe, Meksiko, Kuba, Dominika, te države, ali retko ćeš vidjeti da neko ide u Francusku, u Grčku. A mi to u Srbiji stalno radimo. Put do Grčke nije skup uopšte, ni do ako hoćeš do Hrvatske. Tako da meni to isto lepo, the proximity to everything else over here.
So Serbia is like new home for you now?
It is. Ever since I came here, it's just felt like home. No, there hasn't been a day where I genuinely missed Canada, where I wanted to go back.
How do you feel? More like a Serb or more like a Canadian now?
Right now, I'm in a phase where I'm in a bit of both, because being from Canada, in Serbia, it makes me unique in a certain sense, in a positive way. So it's nice to embrace that part. Back in Canada, I was never proud of being Canadian. And it was never something I really cared for, and that applies to most people over there. I would say I'm now really in between.
Don't you have kind of identity crisis now?
I do, especially now because I came here when I was a teenager, obviously. So I'm in a bit of a transitional phase with the language. So in some cases, it's actually easier for me to speak Serbian, and in some cases, it's easier to speak English. So it's really, as of right now, it's a bit difficult to decide what I am exactly.
What part in you is Canadian and what part in you is Serbian?
I'd say for the work mentality, I'm more Canadian. In Canada and America, it's like the American dream. You're built to work. You're made to work. You're born and, go to school, get a job, and that's it. Over here, people, you'll see more often, they work just so they can afford a coffee tomorrow. They don't really plan on the future, and they don't really think about how that's going to go.
Do you think, is there a thing like Serbian Dream?
I don't think there's a Serbian dream. I think Serbs would love to just not work, and that's it.
This is the Serbian Dream.
Pretty much. They're not financially the strongest, but they're still happy, and that's honestly more important, in my opinion.